Hey, it's your buddy Jack Kelly with the Blind Ambition podcast. And today I want to give you some advice about the holiday party. Now, the holiday party is kind of acceptable practices pretty much all the time lately. And it's one of those things you could have a lot of fun. It could be horrible. It could get you in trouble. So I figure let me give you the everything you need to know, but you're afraid to ask about what the hell should I do at a holiday party. But let's dial back what it used to be like. Here's what it used to be like. This is crazy. So it shows you how times change so rapidly. Holiday parties back in the day, like in the 90s, maybe the 80s, it was like off the hook. You would have a holiday party and everyone knew this is when everything gets crazy. You'd be doing coke in the bathroom stalls, you're having sex in the bathroom stalls. You know, the boss would be kind of hitting on the interns and anyone else who they could get, who they could find, who could find. It was a different time. Like it's hard to believe it changed so quickly where companies became so buttoned up and so concerned about their image and didn't want to say or do anything that could get anyone in trouble. It was much looser. So it wouldn't be like one of the things that if somebody took their tie off, put it, made it tied it around their head or dancing on the table, then they'd be like, oh, that's just Joe. Oh, he's such a cut up. Nowadays, this doesn't go anymore. It doesn't work. HR, human resources got involved, and they're almost like they're the no fun group in the business world, right? They're like, you can't do this. It's a holiday party. You can't drink too much. You can't dance on the table. What's wrong with you? You can't have sex, in the bathroom stall. And like, well, they're not wrong, but at the same time, come on, we want to have a little fun. So this is the thing that you have to balance out. So if you're going to your office holiday party, you're going to have to balance out not being completely crazy and doing weird, stupid, odd things that everybody's going to remember you for, but not in a good way. But at the same time, you want to make the best of it. So to start out with, it's like a do's and don'ts kind of thing. I don't know if you guys ever remember like Goofus and Gallant from those like when you were a kid and you had those magazines. Goofus, like was the asshole who did stupid shit, and then Gallant was like the brown nosing person who did everything right. So this is kind of what we have to do. So Christine, by the way, are you familiar with that with like highlights that magazine, the Goofus and Gallant thing?
Highlights magazine, yes. That particular cartoon, no. But maybe if I saw it, I would.
Mhm.
It would ring a.
Yeah. Goofus, drank too much vodka and puked on the boss. Gallant, made sure everyone had a nice time. That was the kind of thing.
I can't imagine like HR and what they had to deal with during that time period, like navigating that minefield. I can only imagine like the war stories.
See, they didn't have the power back then. That's the whole thing. They were like personnel. So picture this. And it's not too long ago, let's say in the 90s, right? They would be personnel and they would have the file cabinets, those metal file cabinets that you open up, and then within the cabinet you take out a folder and then you have to look through the folder. It was so different. Now they have like tech to decide, like if you're working remotely, they're spying on your keyboard strokes. They're saying if your mouse is moving. Big change, right? Big change. With the holiday parties, where should we go first, Chris? What are like? You want to do the do's or the don'ts?
Let's do the do's, and then
Do's.
the don'ts will be more fun.
Okay. The do's, I would say, even if you hate your boss, if you hate your colleagues, you hate the company, I would recommend you go anyway. You want to play the game because if you're not there, it kind of shows that you don't give a shit and you're not part of the team, and they actually think maybe you're planning on leaving and going somewhere else. So it makes sense at least to show up. It's like, you know what, when you're invited to like some family obligatory thing and you really don't want to go, but it's good form to go. So like you're not hurting anyone's feelings, and it shows that like, hey, you want to be part of it. So number one, go to it. I know everyone's gonna a lot of people look for excuses to opt out. Might as well go. And just because you go, it doesn't mean you have to stay there the whole time. You could go, shake some hands, meet some people, talk a little bit, and then you could leave. But at least they'll know you were there. So that's a do. Now, should
Can that
we?
be against you in, like, let's say your annual performance review, like not going to like company sponsored events and stuff?
It's it is like there's signs, right? They're flags. So let's say you don't go, the HR person or just the manager or the bosses might be like, why did Jack show up? Is he maybe looking for another job? Is he not happy here? So yeah, it makes sense to show. So in addition to just showing up, because same thing with family obligations. Let's be real. You go to maybe a wedding or a bar mitzvah or whatever kind of thing, and yeah, you show up, but then you're miserable and you're sitting there and you look miserable. Don't do that. Because if you're going to go there, at least show or try to show that you're enjoying yourself. Because if you're sitting there and you're looking miserable and unhappy, that's not a good look. So those are like just the table stakes that we're talking about. The to dos, the positive things, Christine, you want to circulate. You want to network. And I know for people, you hear networking, it sounds like just, yeah, networking. I don't want to do it. But it's more of, hey, you're there, you see your peers, you see other people, you maybe senior executive managers. Use this time to schmooze a little bit. That's what I would do. I would kind of map out before I even go to the party. I'd say, like, who do I really want to get on my radar? Who could help me with my career and get to the next level? Who can I kind of befriend and make a relationship that could be mutually beneficial or maybe just selfishly beneficial for me? So you really want to scope it out. So you want to give some time and effort to see, like, hey, you know, this senior level executive or someone on the board of director or some big shot, and you feel like if you can get in front of them and you can kind of pitch yourself, maybe you can get a promotion, maybe you can get a raise, maybe you get a lateral, within the company, a lateral move. So like I would use this time wisely to figure out how can I, how can I get in front of them? Because usually in the day to day, if you're working remotely, hybrid, or even in the office, you know what? You're not going to have these kind of chances to have like a conversation. So map out who you'd like to get in front of. Think of the reasons why you want to get in front of that person, and then be prepared to kind of almost give an elevator pitch of what you would like to get done. So, for instance, let's say you had this project you really want to work on, right? You really want to get it, but you need somebody who's very senior to pull the strings. So then you want to go to that senior person when you see him or her in the holiday party, go right up, and now you can be prepared. Hey Jane, hey Joe, I'm glad to see you there. I love that you did such and such initiative. It was great that you got this client. That's fantastic. Hey, I've been working on this project, and I think this could be really great for the company. And I know we're at a party, so you probably don't want to go into now, but would you be okay if, maybe I sent you an email um, about what I feel like how we could make some extra money and really enhance the business and do something really cool. Is that okay? So those are things you can do. Now, when you do it, make sure, and this is kind of going on that you don't want to do that while you're drunk. So you don't want to drink too much because if you then doing everything I mentioned, but you're shit faced, that's not going to work out well. Not at all. They're going to have your email, they're going to hit delete, and they're going to think, Jack, you're such a loser. Like you're drunk and I didn't understand anything you were talking about. You're horrible. And probably give a note to HR saying, hey, keep an eye on this guy. If he does other things, just get rid of him. So that's a mixture of do's and don'ts. But let's. Do you want to go some more do's or don'ts, Christine? Which way? Which way?
To piggyback of what you just said, I would also
Mm,
say don't be so like heavy handed in your pitch as well. Like know when to
yes.
really walk away. Don't like stick around for like a yes or no answer exactly in that moment.
And to add to that, this like, all right, we've all been there. You go up to someone who you really want to talk to, right? So you speak to that person, and okay, person's polite. Maybe they're very interested, maybe they're not so interested, but then you don't know when to leave. Now, this is what I have a problem with doing. Like, when do you and how do you get away from that person when you feel like, all right, I know this guy or this woman really like doesn't want to keep talking. How do you make your exit? Like, Christine, when you're in those situations, because I'm not good at that part. Like, how do you extricate yourself and get away without looking like a jerk?
I'm good at just slipping away. One, you could just pretend you have to go to the bathroom. You pretend to go to
That is that the easiest thing? Hey, I gotta go to
yeah,
bed. Now,
that's
when you say you go to the bathroom, do you say, "Oh, I gotta go make a dump"? Is
no,
that
no, no,
that's a to don't, right?
yeah.
That's what Goofus would do, right? Not Gallant. I can't believe I gotta take a piss. Don't say that, right? That's not good.
Yeah, you excuse yourself to the ladies' room or the men's room or the powder room to freshen up. Or hopefully you have like a work bestie who,
Oh,
you shoot them a look and then they're, oh, I understand what's happening. They come and bail you,
and they bail you out.
or yeah, you like squeeze their hand and then they know, like, oh, okay, they want out of here.
Guys don't do that. They don't come around and squeeze your hand and hold you by the arm and walk you away. They just watch you and laugh, knowing that you're suffering. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the differences between men and women. Like, you'll have that, you'll have your female friend who's gonna keep an eye on you, make sure you don't drink too much and you're just
Yeah.
crazy. Where a guy is gonna, yeah, have that, have some more vodka. No, you're not drunk. No, no, everything is fine. In fact, here's a joint. Come on, come on, it's a party. That
The
that's
men,
that's different.
the
That's
men
the
are
difference.
trying to escape from it.
Now, okay, in today's day and age, can I walk into the woman's room and say, "Hey, I'm trans, I'm here," or that it would not go over well?
No, don't push any boundaries at your
No,
holiday.
don't do that. So, okay, so all right, so everyone watches, do not do that. Do not go in and think you're cute and funny by doing that, even though I think it'll be hilarious. But I think a lot of people would not find it funny. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, don't do
So
that.
don't do that.
You want to look at your holiday party as an extension of the workplace.
Okay. So you can't do that. All right. So that's off the table.
Yeah.
That's all right. All right. So what other, so is there other do not do's? Like, I think drinking too much could backfire because people end up, they can't hold your liquor, and then before you know it, you're just all like weird and just, hey, you're the best person ever, I love you, get really weird. So you have to be careful, and I think maybe your idea, Christine, having like that partner to keep an eye on it, so
Hmm.
you don't drink too much and you don't do something stupid or say something stupid.
Yeah, if you're allowed, bring a plus one too, so that you have a
Yeah.
built-in buffer just to get you out of any work or any situation that you don't want to be in at your holiday party.
What else would you suggest to do strategically? So we'll get serious for a minute. Really, to get ahead. Like, would you personally feel comfortable, like, you to go and try to just reach out to people like who you kind of know who they are, but you don't know them, to just cold introduce yourself to get on their radar?
I think so. And I think even before that too, like come up with icebreakers, but also do your homework. I liked before when you mentioned when you gave the scenario of going up to a person, you kind of listed their wins.
Mm,
So if there
mm,
are people that you know that you want to target, maybe
mhm,
do your research on them, maybe look for, a commonality that you guys share, or even just something that they recently accomplished that would
mm.
open up with a compliment and they're more receptive to talking to you.
Here's what my wife and my daughter, they do, and it's very effective. Like this could be at a restaurant, this could be at, you're in line for something, and they'll say, "Oh, I really like your dress," or "Oh, I love your fingernails," or "I love the color you did with your hair." And whenever I see them do that, the recipient of the compliment, they beam. Seriously, Christine. I don't know if you do
Mhm.
that or your sisters do that. Like
Mhm.
my, you know, my wife and daughter, they do that regularly. And they don't do that like they just do it naturally now. And it's amazing how like the smiles on the face of the people, like when you say, "Oh, I those nails are beautiful. I love that," or "Oh, that shade of color, for your hair you did. Oh my God, that's so awesome." That's a really good thing. I I couldn't tell you because I'm a guy, so I couldn't say, "Hey, Christine, as a woman, you should do that." But I can tell you, I've seen it work. So that could be a great way for an opening to get on somebody's radar and making them feel really good because now they're going to like you because you complimented, you know, their hair color, their nails, or their dress, or whatever it may be. For a guy, I'm not sure like how to, and
I
that's a
was
good ice, and that's good icebreaker that you mentioned. That's like a good way to break the ice. Like for a
Mhm.
guy, I'm not sure. It's a little harder. What do you think?
I was just gonna ask you, let's say if a woman's wearing a really nice dress, would you advise against a man saying, "Hey, nice dress," because it could get misinterpreted?
See, that's the tough part about these things. Like, if I say, "Hey, your boobs look great in that dress," I'm the jerk. Like, right? So
I
it's
think
so hard.
between saying, "Hey, nice dress," versus versus, "Hey, your boobs look great." Maybe that's the version, like what to say versus what
Okay, that would be
not.
nuts to say. Okay, your boobs look awesome in that dress.
Yeah.
You know what? I've sat next to you for so long. I never knew your boobs were that big. So like, what have you done? Did you have surgery or something? Is that
Yeah,
bad? Is that
don't say that.
Don't
Yeah,
say that. That's
we'll just like avoid the dress altogether.
okay. Okay. All right. So that's what you don't. So I'm
Yeah.
taking notes. So everyone who's watching and listening to this, take notes. Make sure don't talk about the boobs and things like
Yeah,
that.
maybe just
Okay.
stick to like the work win. Just be like, "Hey, that was a really great idea you pitched
Yeah.
in the meeting," and stuff. We'll keep it to professional compliments.
Gotcha.
I like
Professional
that.
compliments.
Yeah,
It's a little bit more boring, but it kind of does make sense to do it that way.
it's effective.
Yes. All right. So what do you do about mingling? Because mingling is always awkward, whether it's a holiday party, it's a wedding, it's some like whatever. It's like you walking around, right? What I do is I've been cutting down drinking. I really haven't been drinking at all lately because I'm just on the health fit kind of thing. Um, but usually I would walk around with, glass in my hand, just, I don't know, you feel like you're doing something by having a glass in your hand, walk around. But then it's always weird when you mingle, like to go up to like, let's say there's a group of people and just barge in. You know what I mean? That's like, what would you suggest the proper etiquette is like, okay, you're walking around like you're feeling super awkward because you're by yourself. And now like you just want to kind of get in with like a little circle of people and like push your way in. What do you do?
You were asking the wrong person. I can be very socially awkward. I'm
Yeah.
at a party, like if I have one friend there, they're like my sidekick the whole night. Like we're not
Mhm.
leaving each
Mhm.
other. But I think what would I do? I think you would just find someone that you somewhat know so that you have
Yeah.
somewhat of a win.
See, all right. I think that I like that. Let's put that on the like top of the list so that maybe right away. Okay, I like this. Maybe right away you scope out the landscape and then you find a couple of friendly faces that you recognize or semi-recognize or kind of, and then just scoot over to them. For guys, this is actually kind of easier too. So let's say, depending on the season, let's say it's still NFL football season. Hey, did you see what happened with this? And more often than not, that's a good ice-breaking, open-ended question. You could say, let's say there's some guy made a really bad hit on, the quarterback and just kind of shouldn't have done that. So it could be an open-ended question. Hey, it was a good game, but what did you think about like what that hit he gave that guy? And then it opens up the conversation.
Or if you see someone standing alone too, because then instead of taking the pressure off of like you talking and stuff, you kind of feel like you're almost bailing them out, where you're like, oh, I'm
Mm.
saving them, they're alone.
So you're
Uh,
looking for that like stray deer that's lost, and then you just kind of go over
yeah,
there too.
yeah,
So like you see that loser by themselves. So now you're gonna be two losers and go over there because you have
yeah.
no
Or
friends.
like it gives you confidence. You're like, wow, I'm so great. I'm saving them
Yeah.
from being a social piranha. And stuff.
Yeah. I think a key is, and this is hard to do, but you want to throw up an open-ended question. And I guess let's say in the context of it's a holiday party, so maybe if you know that person's from your same group, even though you don't know them too well, hey, I heard that you got this fantastic new client in. That's awesome. How'd you do it? To just get that conversation started. I think that's the key. And what happens I notice once you get it started, what I do a lot of times is that I'll ask follow-up open-ended questions. And if you're not aware of what I mean by an open-ended question is this, you have a closed-ended question where it'd be like a yes or no. And I got a lot of this from recruiting, you know. So if you're just asking like a closed-ended question and the person's yes, no, you're going to get nowhere with the conversation fast, and it's going to be really cringy and uncomfortable and awkward. So you want to have these kind of icebreakers, Christine mentioned, these icebreaker questions that gets them talking, Hey, so like, how did you get this win? How did you find this out? How did you get this new client? That sounds fantastic. And of course, the other person is just probably going to be very flattered that you are aware that, they got this big, chunk of business, and would be happy to regale everybody with, oh, here, let me tell you how I did it. So then that person's going to be really super excited. And then from there, you can just ask more questions like, hey, are there other new, folks you're going after to get some more clients? What do you think? And so forth. And then you could ask others, how are you guys doing? And then if there is around, bring them into the conversation. So that I find helpful. It's hard to do. I'm making it sound easy, but it's very doable. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah, and also when you're scanning the room to kind of see where to go, look for
Mm-hmm.
nonverbal cues. Like if someone makes eye contact with you or smiles, I feel like that's kind of like them being inviting. So then I would capitalize on that and then go up to them and then make conversation, because they've kind of signaled to you they're friendly and open to conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense too. It's like you find if somebody, like, I'll give you an example. I mean, this is because I'm going to just depress everybody. So, a family member passed away, and then you have this thing called a shiva where you go and people are there and you talk and you try to make everyone feel better about stuff. So there's this older gentleman who's sitting there all by himself on the couch, and he looks sad. So I just went over and said, "Oh, excuse me, you mind if I sit down?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then started, "Hey, how did you know the folks here? Blah blah blah," and get him talking, and you know, and then all of a sudden now it's not you're sitting by yourself, you're talking to somebody, having a conversation, and so forth. So it kind of gets the wheels in motion. So I like what you're saying. Yeah, if you find that one person alone, and when you look at their facial expression, that you could say some want to be alone, they don't want to be bothered. Others you could kind of tell, I'm alone, but hey, someone come help, speak
Yeah,
to me. And that's
yeah.
what you go for.
I feel like the people that want to be left alone, they're the ones that will avoid eye contact at all times. So
Yeah.
so then you look to the people who, give you eye contact and shoot you a smile, and you're like, okay, this person's safe. This person's cool.
Now, what is your take on flirting during the holiday parties? Is that okay? Is it not okay? Does it you don't want to push it too far where it gets uncomfortable? What would you suggest?
That's hard, because then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, is that the first time that you're flirting, or is there like already an established flirtation and stuff?
I would say there's a timeline, right? A
Mm-hmm.
spectrum where it could be you kind of like somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and so have little flirtations going on, but now you're in the holiday party, she or he has been drinking a little bit, you've been drinking a little bit. So now it's like, maybe let me turn it on a little bit and see what happens.
I think you could flirt, but then still maintain respect and stuff. So I think it's like a fine line. So I think
So,
if you do flirt, then you just still be respectful. Don't make any moves, like no physical moves that night or something. But yeah, always use that and then just follow up another time when you're both sober and can make better decisions.
so how do you make sure? All right, so you're a guy, right?
Hmm.
So like I'm a guy, and you don't want to push it too much, but you are interested. Like, how do you
Hmm.
know not to overplay your hand? And the next thing you know, on Monday morning, you're being called into HR for sexual harassment, and then you, for anybody who knows stuff like this, you're screwed. Then it's over, because now you could be seen as a pariah. They're going to be putting you on a performance improvement plan, which is a way to
Yeah.
kick you out. So you got to tread very carefully. So, like, how do you know? Like, and you're a woman, if I understand correctly, right, Christine?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you like, what is it like when you feel like, all right, this is becoming too uncomfortable? Because like I don't really care for this person's advancements and I'm not liking this person. What do you do? Like, how do you stop that?
Oof. My my inclination is always to lie and say I have a boyfriend.
Is that it?
Yeah. You give them
Now,
cues, like you just signal to them that you're not open to like a relationship, or
mm,
and then if you're a guy wondering like, oh, do I go in for the move, like I feel like if
mm,
you have any question around it, I would just
mm.
avoid it. I would just avoid it at all costs because it's not worth like losing your career for.
So do you just yell, I have a boyfriend, anyone who's like 6 feet in your perimeter
Yeah.
and
No, you
just shout that out?
how like one I'm kind of bad actually trying to figure out when people are flirting with me, so he'll probably be so obvious and I'll just be like, oh, he's being nice and stuff. And then the problem with guys is a lot of the times women are nice and then they think, oh my god, she has like a crush on me.
It's that, you know what? I'll give you a little guy talk, right? Like the
Hmm.
guy, this is male guy code kind of thing.
Hmm.
If you have like a pretty young lady who gives you like a nice look and then maybe gives you a little compliment,
Hmm.
you're thinking, oh my God, she's gonna be my wife. She loves me. I'm already looking at the house we're gonna get, and we're gonna have 2 kids, and we're gonna name the kids, Finbar and whatever. You already have your whole life set up for you. And meanwhile, she already forgot you because, like, while you're having this daydream, she just walked away.
Yeah, I've experienced that where like guys will almost get angry. They're like, I thought you liked me. And I'm like, no, I'm just a nice person.
I'm telling you, a lot of guys are like that. They just have like, you get that one nice glance from a young lady and
Hmm.
maybe a look, and you're like, oh my God, this is my future. And you really feel like guys will feel that way. They're like, oh wow. Because guys, can I tell you, you may not realize it, they don't get complimented too often. Like
Yeah.
women always get complimented, even like ugly women, like, oh hey, you're beautiful, even though you're really like very ugly. Like I'm just kidding around when I'm saying stuff like this. Just so you guys know. I'm just trying to make this fun because it's a holiday theme. So we're having fun. Uh, but yeah, like guys, think about it. Like, have you ever seen like, hey Joe, hey, I really like your dungarees. Your butt looks really good in them. You never, guys never get, like, they don't get compliments. So if you have the slightest bit of like a compliment or whatever, you're like, yeah, she loves me, and this is it. We're all good.
I wonder if that's a generational thing because I
Yeah,
find millennial men and like Gen Z men can be very, they can have fun with like that kind of stuff where they're
yeah,
not really worrying about like the stigma of like complimenting a guy or something. I have a
yeah,
question. So, how do
yeah.
you react when you meet either your spouse's work wife or husband, or let's say it's your work wife or work husband and you're meeting their spouse, you go, hey, your spouse is my work husband or my.
That is a great question because that happens all the time. And for people who are not aware of like, work, wife, works, spouse, what have you, is that, you're working so closely with somebody, and it's almost like, that husband and wife relationship. And then when the real partners come in, all of a sudden it's very awkward. It's very weird.
I feel like it was more of a thing back then, whereas
Yeah.
now women are like, nope, you're not allowed to work wife. Like they're setting the boundary.
Mhm. But I think it goes both ways because, you know, you have the work husband, the work wife,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but yeah, that is awkward because then the real wife and husband and they meet, it's weird because then like, is there something going on here that I don't know about?
Yeah, like how would you feel if you went to Karen's holiday party and then some guy walked up and he's a good looking guy and he's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, Karen's my work wife. I owe everything to her. How would you react?
It would be, I don't, it would be uncomfortable.
Would that be a conversation that you guys would have had later? Like, hey, what is this?
I think we have enough of a relationship that, you know, it would be, all right, it's harmless flirtation and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see how those things could go really bad really quickly, you know?
Mm-hmm. I have another question. What do you do when you observe something that makes you uncomfortable? So it's not something that necessarily happens to you, but it's something that you see and you're like, oh, I don't like that, and it kind of makes you view someone in a different light.
This is like in the context still we're talking about like the holiday
Yeah,
party kind of stuff.
the holiday parties or even like work conferences and stuff.
You know what I would do seriously, 100% I do. If I feel like the person's doing something like could really blow up and really be
Mm-hmm.
bad, I totally, even if I don't know that person really well, I
Mm-hmm.
would absolutely take that person aside and say, hey, dude, you might not be realizing it. You've been drinking a lot, and I know you've been eyeing this woman, and let- let's go outside. We'll just get some fresh air, chat, and try to get him out of that, remove him from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because nowadays, like it's not, when we started the conversation, and I wasn't being overly dramatic about, you know, bosses hitting on their interns and, sex in the stalls. I mean, yeah, it was much more liberal and crazier. Then now everything is so like you can get just in so much trouble and lose, any perception that people had of you, like, oh, he's a great person, and all of a sudden it's all tarnished. So yeah, I would definitely try to, even if I don't know that person, steer, him or her away from something that could really go ugly.
Yeah, because and I asked that because
Yeah.
my sister, they had like a conference in Vegas and she didn't go, but she saw this play out kind of on Instagram stories where
Hmm.
she saw two married coworkers, definitely too close, and they were like in the background of like a picture that was posted. And then you're like, oh, are they aware this picture was posted? Because they're like
Hmm.
hand in hand and those two people are married. But the thing that made her uncomfortable was that her boss was also there. So then it made her view him in a different light where she was like, ew, like you kind of like condone that behavior. So then it's like, do you say something or do you just keep it to yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. Now, do I know all these people or I don't know all
Yeah,
these
you
people?
know them. Because then do you even go up to like the married people and you're like, what are you like, what were you thinking? What are you doing? Or do you just make a mental note and you stay hush about it?
All right, all right. People will judge me harshly on this because if it's someone who I know and like, I try to kind of do something and try to lighten the mood and whatever, try to kind of make sure they're not still near, what I mean, try to maybe put a wedge in there so they go their
Mm-hmm.
separate ways. But if I know those people and I think they're jerks and terrible people, I'm like, yeah, good for them. I'd love to see it all blow up and laugh.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if like, the person who put up the picture secretly hated them and was
Exactly, exactly.
oh,
Say,
for a
you know
lie.
what? You know what? This person is just a shitty person. always does terrible things. So you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to stake my reputation on that guy.
I think that's a good mentality to
Yeah,
have.
yeah. So all right. So I think the thing is we it's not like it used to be. So you have to be more careful and cautious. You can't drink too much. You can't party too much. You can't do be too flirtatious. Yeah, you got to kind of keep it kind of low key because like every you know what it is in this day and age too, like HR and managers, they can't wait to find someone doing something wrong so then they could jump into like, aha, got you. And now it makes them feel like, look, I'm really busy. I have to work on this thing. There's this real big problem that happened at the holiday party. So I'm gonna have to take a few days just focusing on that and interviewing people and having them come to my office because they love having that power to like make like a mountain out of a molehill. So you have to be really super cautious about because then once you get into that thing, once you're in that that rat trap kind of thing, the hamster wheel, you can't get off of it because now they invested too much time looking into investigating that they have to come up with something, and the something is not going to be like yeah, oh, that was funny. Let's all go our separate ways. They're going to have to come up with something to make you look bad, and you can even lose your job. So there is a really serious. I know we're being jocular in this conversation because it's a holiday time and you want to be have fun, but yeah, you do have to be super careful and watch your reputation because you can have the best reputation ever, but all you have to do is like one dumb thing, right? Like have a little too much to drink, say the wrong thing, um, and then boom, done. You know what I mean? And then word travels fast. And you know how not only does word travel fast, it's like a game of telephone. So it goes from someone just saying something like not terrible to like, did you hear what Jack said? He said, and then they'll recite this like heinous thing, that I never said, but because one person told another person. So now it's like this, oh my God. So all of a sudden, Jack is persona non grata because like of what he supposedly said, but he never did say it. So yeah, so you have to be super careful.
Yeah, we've dealt with candidates who may have said something out of pocket, out of line, and then like they're still struggling to find jobs and stuff. And then you have to hire
Yeah,
someone to help rehabilitate your reputation.
yeah, it is. It's real. Like as Christine mentioned, we've seen that where people who have been in a certain job, certain company for years and years, no problems. Someone said something that maybe was deemed inappropriate, what have you, called into HR, called into like the managers, and hey, sorry, hey, we're gonna have to let you go. And then good luck finding another job because then they can say, hey, why did you leave your job? And now every single time you interview, you're gonna have to tell them, here's what happened. This is why I'm looking for another job. And now who's gonna want to hire that person when there's like a red flag? Because then they think if something goes wrong at the new company, they're gonna say, why the hell did you hire this guy? You knew he was trouble. So you have to be really careful.
If you're a candidate, would you advise people to be upfront with their recruiters about that? Because I think there were times where like they were like, "Oh, by the way, I got fired because I said something inappropriate." And you're like, "Wait, why didn't you tell
Yeah.
me sooner?"
Yeah. Yeah. You want to bring it out because like you don't want to get caught off guard because then they think you're lying and they're hiding stuff. And that's even though that becomes even worse. You better off just whatever it is, try your hardest to just squash it right away.
And I do empathize with HR in these instances because I knew someone who it was like a holiday party and like the HR person had to deal with like the investigation between like the boss and the employee, and I she was so stressed, like
Yeah.
know what to do because then at the end of the day they're also still your boss too, so then you just want to make the right move and the right decision. So I do empathize with HR.
Yeah.
It can't be fun to navigate that kind of stuff.
Yeah. 100%. I love HR. They have a really hard job to do. It's a challenging job, a tough job, but it's really fun to like you know, do what we're doing because like, there's certain professions that people want to dunk on and they usually can. So like it's, I'm 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 saying this for all the people who would want to say it themselves, even though we all could agree that they have a hard job and they do their best, but you know, they would like to kind of make, have a little fun in it.
Yeah.
So all right, so I think we're good. So I think we gave some really good advice, right? Where let's go through. We want to make sure don't drink too much, don't say anything really dumb, don't don't do anything that you're gonna regret later on. You don't want to do it or say anything that could end up hurting your career and losing your job. You do want to go to the party. You do want to kind of make friends and meet new people, get some ideas. You want to see if hey, you do always wanted to pitch some idea to someone. Be brave, go for it, but don't linger too much and don't push too much. Um, it's awkward, but you want to come up with a few icebreakers. As I mentioned, let's say if for a guy, it's easier for me to say like, all right, from a guy's perspective, because I'm not sure, for women might be a little different, but you know, like an icebreaker, like, hey, what did you think of this game? In the same way I mentioned about my wife, my daughter, hey, oh, I love what you're, how you did your, nails, whatever things just to open up so you can have those conversations. It makes it more comfortable for you. And then, as Christine mentioned, I think it's really cool. Like, if you find someone who also feels like a little lost and not sure where to go, might as well go there because, like, you can tell, hey, they're looking for someone to talk to, and just go over there. And then before you know it, someone else notices and they join you. So now you're having a good time.
Yeah, if they feel that you bailed them out of like
Yeah.
that situation, then maybe they'll pay you back in like in the future with like a job opportunity
Right.
and stuff.
Or at least they could feel, hey, this is Jack was a really good guy. I know, like I was sitting there by myself. He came over there, chatted. He's like a cool guy. So yeah. So you make the best of it for everybody. So it's one of those things where, you know, and this happens a lot in business, in the workplace, where it may not seem like much, but then when you delve into it, you realize like, yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls and you got to be really careful. And unfortunately nowadays, it's like everybody can't wait to find fault in someone else. It's a really messed up thing.
That and
And
people are so readily like running to like TikTok and stuff to share those kinds of stories as well.
yeah, I didn't even think of it. That's true too. They can't wait to like put on social media. Do you know what happened there? Oh my God. And then like,
Yeah.
this is what happened here. They did this person said this person said that, and what have you. Like everyone can't wait to see someone slip up and then like, point the finger and throw that person under the bus. It's sad it's that way, but it is. It does happen, right?
Yeah. I think if you have any hesitation, like, is this the right thing to say? Don't say it. Like,
Yeah.
maybe before the holiday party, just work on like self awareness. That would be my advice.
Well, you know what? To piggyback on what you said, yeah, maybe you have like that game plan. Like, okay, here's some icebreakers.
Hmm.
And I'll make it up just off that. Let's say it's been cold out lately and snowy. Okay, hey, what do you think about this? It's crazy with all this snow and ice, right? It seemed nice up until recently. It could just be inane, but sometimes you just need that little icebreaker. And then, absolutely, a big fan of you have open-ended questions, so it makes the other person talk. If you just ask questions that they can say yes or no, it's going to be painful. But if they make them talk, and then as I mentioned a little earlier, not only do you have to want open a question once, but you want to keep doing it to keep that conversation going. Then one or two things happen. Either the person on the other end is like, oh my God, leave me alone, right? I'm leaving. Or they're like, oh, this person's really interested in me. And now you have your like work friend. Now you guys, or whoever you're with, can now go and let's go over. I see someone over there. Let's both go over and meet that person. And then you can start building up that whole little group of people and have a really awesome time.
And then if socializing is something you struggle with, or even just talking to people, like your interpersonal skills,
Mhm.
just pushing yourself in these kind of situations are perfect. And you can take those skills and use them in your career and strengthen them there.
Absolutely. Oh, one last thing though. What happens usually there's like an after party, which is not like a sanctioned event from the company, but it's like there's always somebody like in a group who's the ringleader to come up with ideas, right? So usually someone come up, hey, we're all going to go over to this bar, we're all going to go over to this club or wherever. It's okay to do that, but be careful, because just like we talked about before, if you do anything or say anything or do anything crazy, and now because now it's getting later at night, you're drinking more, you're partying more, you're doing whatever you're doing more, it could get really out of hand, and then word gets back, and then it's no go. And I hate to say that, like, but this is the world we live in now. It's unfortunately everyone. There's a lot of people who can't wait for someone to do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, and say "gotcha" and get them in trouble. So, like, this is the real world, and this is what we're doing with this podcast. We're not bullshitting. We're not coming like we would do no favors if we pretend everything was wonderful, everything was easy. It would be nice to do that, but I think part of our job in sharing information is like how to help you and also how to avoid doing dumb things that could get you in trouble.
Yeah, especially with everyone, they have a smartphone in their pocket, so you can easily
Oh my
take
God, that
a
too.
picture.
Oh my God, right. So now you can take pictures. Oh my God, look at the you're taking pictures like I
Yeah.
knew, in the house, the work wife work husband, they were really more than that. You know what I mean? Now you have the pictures. Absolutely. So I think everybody's prepared now for it. So I think we gave you some good intel, some good advice. Any last minute advice, Chris, or you think we did a good
No,
job?
I think you did a
Cool.
good job, and then now it's just up to them to have fun and
Okay.
celebrate their wins for the year.
You think that that's something to talk, like that's a conversation starter too? Or
Like,
that gets too serious to say, hey, Christine, what's your wins for the year? Or is that, as part of going back to the holiday party? Is that like something
oh,
to ask?
that could be like a good
Good
opener.
icebreaker?
You know how some people like around
Yeah.
like a table, they're like, "What's your rose and thorn and stuff?" So that would
Mm.
be even in a social setting to go around and list your rose and thorn for like the year. I think that could
That,
be a great icebreaker.
you know what? I like that idea. So like, let's say you're sitting at a table, right? And you really don't know anybody there.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw that out. Hey, here's some of your wins. Here's some, what did you say? Thorns and
Yeah, I wrote like a rose and a thorn. So like the good and bad parts of your year.
yeah, that's a good idea. And if you're the person who starts that, then you're the cool person who started. You know what I mean? Then everyone's looking to you, which is
Yeah.
kind of neat. So like it elevates your stature that you're getting everybody involved and you're like the lead, the leader, getting everybody excited, interested in talking and
Mhm.
making it comfortable. So that's a great idea. I love that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
try that. Yeah.
that's a good point that it could position you as like the leader, someone to
Yeah.
charge in a certain situation.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of people shy away from that. They don't want to be that person because they're scared. Like, hey, let's do this. What's your rose and thorn? And then you hear crickets and you feel like mortified and embarrassed. So you do need somebody who's confident enough to know. They'll say, hey, what are your wins? What are your losses? You want to talk about it? Because you're taking a risk. Because everybody could be like, ah, leave me alone,
Yeah,
dork.
it's like equivalent to like the first person who steps on the dance floor and
Yeah,
stuff. Oh,
exactly.
wow, that person's really brave.
Oh, okay. See, like dancing, you got to be careful too, right? Like you can't get a little, you got to keep your distance a little bit, right? And not get you know, a little
Yeah.
too close. I think that's
Social
another thing you got to be careful.
revert to COVID measures, social distance, social distance on the dance
Yes.
floor.
All right. Now, all right. So for everybody who's going to your parties, I think you're all set. I think you got, there could be more, but I think you're all set. So you know what to do, what not to do. And you know what? Maybe we could have a podcast after the holidays where, give your our emails and you could tell us like, hey, what happened? What did you see in your holiday party? What went on? What was the craziest stuff that happened? That could be fun. And then we could have another podcast on
Yeah, we
it.
can
Okay.
get our people to talk about like the stuff that they've dealt with concerning holiday parties.
We'll do that. And then we can kind of feedback, give everybody feedback what happened. See, were we right in our advice or not? Like we were wrong, right, in between. So that could be fun. All right. So have a happy holiday season. We have a lot of guests lined up. Um, and it's gonna be really cool. And enjoy yourself. And we'll see you soon. All right. Thanks, everyone.